We are gathered here for the cookout. As usual, it is Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. We're here to talk about all that's cooking up in the world of professional wrestling. We are 2 episodes deep in our Mr. McMahon Netflix documentary watch along. So tonight will be episode 3. Sammy, I'm looking at your ceiling. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but your camera is looking
No,
at.
I didn't have time to set it up, and now I'm trying to get the show on. So
Okay. Well, it's all right. I'll
everybody's just
give you a
gonna have
second.
to deal with it for a moment.
Uh, I was gonna say you can. Yeah, I was saying
Episode
you can address
3.
your.
I know.
Yep. Miss Anika should be here any minute. I believe Dolores is in the background. Dolores, I don't know if you have a clown of the week first before we get started, or if Sammy has a clown of the week. I do not. Uh, but
Um,
you got one, Sammy?
I'm gonna go with the Cleveland Browns.
All right. We'll just let that one go and say we don't have an actual clown of the week since it should be a wrestling clown of the week, but that's all right. Um,
Well,
so
everybody's working their hardest, doing their best. I don't want to, besmirch anybody. You know,
uh, I guess let's give it a minute or two and see if Anika shows up. If not, we'll start this. It looks like we just got a Miss Anika, maybe? Ah, all right, all right, all right. Do you have a clown of the week, Miss Anika?
Y'all, see, this is what y'all have to sell with me. Don't be doing this on the spot.
Well, I didn't have one, so I'm just asking everyone if they got one. I asked Laura, she said no. Sammy said the Cleveland Browns, so I just kind of moved on from that.
No. Give me a
am I
If you
wrong?
don't have one, if you don't have one, it's fine. I mean, it just is a fly by the seat of your pants this week. So
give me a minute. It's cool. Wait. All right, real quick. For the fans who watched AEW Wrestle Dream and the finale. Oh my gosh, it was so much. Why are you in like that? Sad news, people. Sometimes life doesn't go your way. So kind of week is them fools that really are emotionally stunted that Ryan Tailson lost. And because he got stretchered out, oh my God, it was so much. This week, we have literally said that this week. The first 6 months of this year, 2 months ago, we literally saw someone get freaking injected into the chin and get suffocated. So, all in all, him getting his full-time career ending with a neck chair shot. Miss me with all that. Okay? All y'all can calm down. It's fine. I am pretty sure this is probably how Danielson wanted to go out. It's cool. Relax. Bye.
now apparently this was, I guess he requested that Moxley be his last match. So okay, I mean it wouldn't have necessarily been my choice for his last match, but that's fine. It's his career. It's his career. It's his life. So he can do whatever he wants to do. If that's what he wanted to do.
And
Then
I
it worked
so
out.
about people, so like that's very debatable, and as fans, you do have a right to say, "Hey, my favorite wrestler, I want them to end like this." But the whole, "Oh my God, the clothing angle was so much." Get your
Right.
miss me with all that. Go on about your business. Go on about your business. To make this is Brian Daniels we're talking about. So to make sure that he can come back 6 months afterwards, it has to be an angle where he does not come back. Because it is Brian Danielson. He will come back because the freaking itch will cripple on the freaking arm. So it's like, no, let's make sure you stay gone for at least 6 months to a year, sir. Please.
Yep. I mean, I thought it was well done. I mean, honestly, I need to watch the match again. But I felt like they still left a little meat on the bone. I felt like they could have given me a little bit more. Just the two of them in the actual match itself. Not all the ending stuff, not all that, but just the two of them in the match. I felt like it could have been a little bit more. But, that said, I thought it was still great. So.
Oh, yeah. And I'm very excited about Dynamite. It's like, what the freak is going to happen?
I got booted out and now my headphones aren't working on the screen.
Yep, welcome to the new platform, right? Now, there'll be a little bit of technical hiccups, I'm sure, here and there until we get our feet beneath us. But if everyone's ready, I guess we can go ahead and start episode 3 of Mr. McMahon and get this party going. You guys ready?
All right, wait a minute. Just hit the Netflix on the phone here. So I still haven't watched episode 2. Was that good?
Yes.
Yes, actually it was. Oh, that's right. You weren't here with us that week. Yeah,
I
it
was
was.
fine.
There was quite a bit of stuff. It was mostly really it was about all the scandals. It was really like the scandal episode. Like they talked a lot about just the different scandals that WWE had been through. I mean, it continued on and picked up where one left off at the end, like basically with the 80s and WrestleMania coming around and just the boom of wrestling because of WrestleMania. And then it started talking about the steroid scandal in the late 80s and early 90s, and then all the different stuff that's been surrounding WWE as far as scandal stuff. So no, and there was actually some stuff that both me and Sammy were like, "Whoa, we didn't know that." So, yeah, no, I mean, if you haven't watched it, I suggest you go back and watch it.
I will do. All right, I'm ready on my phone.
All right, Sammy, you ready?
Yep.
All right, let's see. I'm pressing play.
Countdown.
And
3, 2, 1. Hit it.
all right, hit it.
Dun, dun.
Let's go. This one is called Screwjob, so I'm assuming a big portion of this one will be the Montreal Screwjob.
I wonder.
Although Wendy Richter's in the ring right now. Although Wendy Richter, yeah, is in the ring right now. So
Netflix popped up to alert me that I will no longer be able to watch Netflix after November 10th on this device.
Why?
I wonder why. That seems weird.
My TV's old.
Very interesting.
Are you
WWE
sharing the
Ladies
account?
Title Match. Wendy Richter.
That must show the problem. Why was she the problem? See, don't
That's
words out like that.
If this is available over on other platforms, I'll have to watch from there after November 10th.
Well, it will be done by November 10th. There's only 3 more weeks after. I think there's only 6 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. So Dick will be done by then, but with this particular watch along. We got Wendy Richter in a title match with Moolah. Or was she actually in a match with Moolah, or did Moolah just interfere?
No, they're trying to.
Moolah was in the match.
So what?
Okay, it was Moolah versus Richter. Okay.
So this was trying to screw Wendy for some reason.
Yeah, so they were trying to.
Wendy wanted the bag.
But why not? Because you're just at WrestleMania with Cindy Lauper, so yeah. Yeah, why would you do that? Like, come on now.
Set women's wrestling back 2 decades.
Burn my house down. Shush! Why? Can you mind your own?
Oh, what? Oh.
Power slam by the defense. McMahon never ordered you. It was a personal choice. Definitely. They're asking if McMahon ever ordered him to take steroids.
I'm like,
Parent says no. He did it on his own.
that's interesting that they actually, they called on him to testify against Vince.
Hmm. He said, I told him I'd say whatever they needed me to say, but I already knew what I was going to say. This motherfucker. That's a pretty good rendering. He even looks like a racist.
Now, okay, let's be very clear. I do not like this nigga. This very clear. But I do believe in come to the person who brought you to the dance. So yes, I was like, you real life wanted me to say. Like I didn't watch episode 2, so I'm not sure what the fallout was with Hulk and Vince. Probably was money, but yeah, why would I go against for what? Like,
We're still talking about steroids.
yeah, it's like, how does it benefit Hulk Hogan if he goes against Vince right now? Like, what's the benefit?
As far as you mean in court during this?
Yeah.
Or like it, or as far as when he leaves
in this
WWE.
At this point in time, and they call him to testify, why would you? I guess that's my question. Why would the government think it would benefit Terrence?
Well, because he told him he would. I mean, he said, "I'll tell them what I'll say, whatever you want me to say," and then changes and didn't when the time came. So,
but what Brett said was like perfectly spoken. Like, did he ask us to do it? No. When you looked at the main event, you saw all guys doing it, so like it was kind of a common sense thing.
Sure, no doubt.
Because, like, again,
nobody has to tell you to do it. You can see it with your own eyes. Like,
but the thing is, like, you're trying to convict him of telling people. It's like, no, that was probably the game before Vince got into this, right?
Well, I mean, the reality is that most of these guys didn't start originally in WWE, and they were probably either high school athletes or wrestlers before, and they were probably already doing steroids well before they ever met McMahon. A lot of these guys. So I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That being said, and I think it is. I mean, I think it's endemic, especially to football, but sports in general, and definitely wrestling and football in particular. I do think that you can't, you see what the successful people in those industries, look like. And if you're aspiring to be a professional wrestler or a professional football player, chances are good at some point you're going to convince yourself you probably need to do steroids, which is a horrible thing to say, but that's what they all do, and that's what your friends are going to be, your co-mates, your teammates, and all these other people. That's just what happens. I mean, and if you want to make it, unfortunately, that's even the guys that are blessed with an immense amount of talent, natural talent, and whatever. I mean, they still do whatever they can to get ahead. And if it wasn't steroids, it'd be something else. Willie Mays, the great Willie Mays, was quoted as saying, "Did I ever do steroids? No, we didn't have them back in my days, but I did whatever I could to get taken advantage. We did greenies, we did all sorts of stuff. I mean, greenies are essentially speed or amphetamines. I mean, we did whatever we could to try to get ahead. I mean, that's what everybody did. So, I mean, if there had been steroids like that, then he would have done them. So I mean,
yeah."
Now, personally, when it comes to adult men or women, I don't care. If you choose to want to use steroids, I don't think there's a problem with that. The problem is that that I think it trickles down to children, and that's the problem.
Oh yeah.
Kids see it and kids want to do it, and so they start doing it at a younger age because they want to be that or whatever, and so they think that that's what they have to do. That's the only problem with, in my opinion. If it was just adults doing it, I don't have a problem with that. You want to fuck your body up for my entertainment? Hey, what do I care? That's a personal choice. I mean, you know.
Oh. Talking about steroids remind me of Tony Mandarick.
Mandrich,
1989 NFL draft. He went second overall after Troy Aikman.
Yep.
And the thing is that at the time he had blew out all the combine records. Like he was setting all the records and everything. But then once he was in the league, he had to stop taking steroids. And once he stopped taking steroids, he only lasted like a year or two and had middling results the entire time.
Yep. Same with Brian Bosworth. I mean, Bosworth was. I mean, he was a little bit. He had a ultimately better career, I think, than Mandrich, but same issue.
That draft was a crazy one. Like Troy Aikman, Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and Deion Sanders, like all in the top 5. And then you got that dude who's got there because of steroids.
Undertaker, Bret Hart.
They're saying that this is a new generation because there's no Hulk Hogan. They're like, now the top spot up for grabs. Who's going to take it?
Right.
Well, I mean, the main event spot is up for grabs because like 8 of the top 10 dudes are all gone.
Yeah, exactly. The top, yeah. It is really said Lex Luger because so this era, right? Sorry, I don't think I was born, but I think of Lex Luger more as a WCW person than a WWF person. So then to say that's like, oh, okay.
I mean, I do too, and I was alive and watching during that era, and I still think that.
Right? It's
I mean, Lex Luger was in WWE, but I never think of him as a WWE guy. He was always somebody. He was always another, whatever, whether it was WCW or where he was at before that. I mean, he never was really, in my opinion, what I would call a WWF guy.
Yeah.
Randy. Mega Powers. They're basically talking now we're on to the beginning of WCW, basically. I mean, Ted Turner talking about wanting to get into wrestling, and we're slowly working our way up. There we go. WCW Saturday night on TBS. So, I mean, they haven't been around as long, but I think that you could probably start having the conversation a little bit. Is AEW better than WCW was? I know they haven't been around as long. And they don't have maybe some of the heritage or that WCW ultimately comes with, since it comes from the NWA and all those things. But I'm just wondering, like, what do you think? What do you guys think?
Quality-wise, yes.
Quality-wise?
It's kind of hard to compare, though, because you see who was over in WCW, like Sting. Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, and then later on you have the outsiders. Then Lex Luthor comes over. It's like you said, quality rise in the ring. AEW has more, but star power is like. Now Sting was over there. Now Sting was at AEW, so I can't say he didn't have him. And I still love that run. I still love that run. Was
Wrestlers really don't have the star power these days as they did back then.
That was just about to be my question. I mean, I was just gonna say, is there anybody now who has the star power of these guys? Or okay, let me rephrase that. I think there are plenty of guys that could be 80s guys or 90s guys that could have been Attitude Era guys or 80s guys, and they would have had plenty of it. I think it's changed. The question is, has it changed, I think, for the better? Or is it changed for the worse? I mean, they're more authentic. People are more authentic now.
Mhm.
These characters are more out there, more whatever. They're more character based, right? So, but even like The Rock and Stone Cold, the John Cena's of the world, the Undertaker's, like, I mean, it is interesting. They don't. I mean,
But
what do we? I mean,
off the bat, Roman Reigns. Off the bat, Roman
Okay.
Reigns. He's getting
Mhm.
up there. He's getting up there if he's not there right now. Point blank. Period. Is anyone up there with
Okay.
him is the question too.
I mean, I think that Becky Lynch and Mercedes Moné are up there.
Yep, this is true. Definitely Becky. Definitely Sasha with the whole especially with the Star Wars series. And here's the thing, because real quick, then comparing to the Attitude Era, right? It was so much crossover entertainment. Like you saw, like I went to YouTube and Mick Foley was on Boy Meets World. It's like what? And so, unfortunately,
Vader was on Boy Meets World.
Vader was on Boy Meets World. Like I was 9, but they had Stone Cold at the VMAs introducing Jay-Z. I'm like, what? And unfortunately, I'm not sure why Vince forgot that this is what brought him to the top, because he got older, and then you want to prevent this from happening again. Case in point, Damian Priest had a role in Black Panther 2, and you told him he couldn't do it. And it's like, why do you now want to control your wrestlers when you know the crossoverness is what made these wrestlers huge? But now you don't want them to have other roles? Like, that's like, what part of your brain said stop doing that? Because that's how they got. That's how they got to be big stars. Because the crossover brands and like The Rock and Big Show and all of them went to SNL. It's like, why do you stop wanting them to do this?
Tony Khan allows it, but like it's been so many years that it's hard to shift that back into place. Like Darby Allin does stuff, Britt Baker does stuff, of course Samoa Joe does stuff, but like it's few and far between, and it's either really young people or the older people.
I'm very interested because like I think MJF could be a top star, and I'm very interested to see how this Happy Gilmore 2 move's going to turn out, because
he was an Iron Claw.
What'd you say?
He was an Iron Claw.
He was an Iron Claw. That's more of a move. That's the more wrestling. Even though that is the wrestling, even though it is a movie, it is more towards wrestling. I'm not sure if anyone outside of wrestling who are wrestling fans went to see it. You know what I'm saying? But Happy Gilmore, that's Adam Sandler. So this is gonna, like, if people don't know about MJF, they're gonna know about him now after that movie comes out.
The thing is that it's going to take years before we can see any real headway with it, unfortunately.
And this is as like, yeah, AEW is still new, but you got to do the whole crossover. That's why. And then we'll go back to this. What's her name? Kania's the lady who's married to Michael Bennett.
Yeah, Maria Kanellis.
Maria Kanellis Bennett. Her talking about how women wrestlers should be in vogue and how they should be doing other cross. It's like, why don't y'all use it? Because it really is like, you have to have that mindset if you want to grow your business. You can't just be in wrestling, especially when wrestling's entertainment as well. Why not let them cross over and do fashion shows, be on, have makeover deals and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that what made WWE so big in the 80s and the 90s was, like you said, its ability to have its hand in almost everything. You know, it had its characters, or it had its wrestlers on other platforms. It had celebrities on their platforms. They had, you know, everything you could think of as far as merchandise goes, or ice cream bars, or whatever. I mean, those are the things that made WWF what it was. And yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I think they've gotten away from it. I do think there's always been, with combat sports, you're always going to have a slight stigma. And WWF has had, definitely professional wrestling has had a stigma for sure around it. And, you know, so some of that's hard to, you know, overcome at times too. But, you know, I mean, I mean, when I think about the megastars of wrestling, I feel like I can count them really on like two hands, which tells me out of the thousands that have come along that you know it's a lot harder than it looks. And so the reason that there aren't more Hulk Hogan's or there aren't more Rocks is because those are once in a generation type guys. They're one in a million. They just are what they are, right? So
Yeah.
most people aren't those
Well,
guys, you know.
well, there was like 20 of them in the Attitude Era. It's just after the Attitude Era, we never really got it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, John Cena, um, I suppose Edge, but like Edge is very minor on that.
Eddie Guerrero.
Did he have a lot of mainstream crossover stuff? Because if he did, I don't remember any of it.
Like, not mainstream, but it feels like if he didn't, it feels like he was one of the people who should have. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, as everyone in that 2003, 2006 generation, John Cena and Eddie Guerrero, I can definitely see at least doing guest appearances. Like, Eddie Guerrero was hilarious. So it really is like, if he was not doing stuff, why? Like, honestly, why?
Like, the thing is that nowadays it takes everything in them, and like it takes them until they're 40 to reach the top of the organization. Like, once they get there, like there's no time to try and branch out past that into the mainstream too.
I never got why this was a freaking. And yes, HBK is my baby. The Click are my babies. But
I killed wrestling that day.
like, why? Like, I guess I don't know. I get, because like on one hand, I believe, yes, kayfabe, keep it alive. But on the other hand, if you did not confiscate that one person's tape recorder, who would have known? Like, honestly, who was the dude? The dude who actually stuck a tape recorder in the freaking arena and tape recorded this? So you would have had it better if you wrote it into the script that they were going to say goodbye. I don't like.
No. Whole thing was dumb.
Like, I guess. Okay, so I'm sorry. You're our seasoned wrestler, fan, ALW. How much
Yeah.
belief did? Okay, this is 1994 or five.
I think so. Sure.
So you're watching this in real time. You're watching wrestling in
Yeah.
general. How much did you
Yes.
believe this was real?
None of it. I mean, by that time, I already knew none of it was really real.
So,
I mean,
so
you always have that wonder, like, oh well, shit, could there really be something going on? But no, I mean, it's. I mean, I was like 20 almost. I mean, it's not real anymore. I mean, that 99% of it is all work anyhow. So
so I actually
That's
like,
one thing I don't get with people is like when I say that I'm a fan of wrestling, they're like, that's not real, right? And it's like, dude, like,
no, you're the first person to say that to me. Like,
yeah. So it's like, so so how much? So I asked you that because it's like they're like, can you keep it alive? Like, do you really believe that I hate this? Like, that's what I'm asking. How much of an impact of them saying goodbye in Madison Square Garden had an effect on you as a wrestling fan? Because keep asking wrestlers, how do you ask the fans? Did the fans really, like, to a wrestling fan who's watching these dudes in 1995, how much does it affect your reality of the show?
none of my reality of the show, but I already know that it's basically. I don't want to say the word fake, but basically, that it's a work, and that it is what it is, and at the same time, like I, when it's okay, when it's real competition, I don't necessarily be a good sportsman, but I'm not necessarily for the new old huggy, let's swap jerseys, let's, pick each other up off the ground, opposing teammate type shit. I'm not here for that. Like, I mean, when we're on the court, like, we're here to kill each other. And as far as in wrestling goes, that's how I feel it should be when you come out of those curtains. It should feel that way.
Okay.
You should feel like these two really don't like each other. It should have that feeling. And I don't want to really see them hugging afterwards. A handshake,
Okay.
like a Ring of Honor handshake of respect, or the match is over, I respect you, but I love you, brother. I know you're going, even though we're no, because really it breaks down that. I mean, we already are there. We're already suspending our disbelief, but it like pisses on it, and it's like, why do you I mean, I don't know. You could do that in the back. Why are you doing it on the screen? You could do it in the back. It doesn't do anything for us as fans. It feels like you're just trying to be like, look, we are, you know what I'm saying?
No,
So
no,
I don't know.
no. That's why I truly wanted to know the thoughts of a wrestling fan back in the day. So watching this, you wouldn't like this if you saw it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Well, I mean, I did, and I wasn't a big fan of it. No, I mean, just in general. I mean, it wasn't.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Okay. So I get it. Okay.
I mean, I don't care. I mean, I know because I'm not stupid. And like I said, by this time, I'm already almost 20 years old. I know that once you're behind those curtains, everyone's most people are friends. Don't get me wrong. And even behind the curtains, there's a lot of real life beef going on. So I get that. But like, in theory, you're all friends and it is what it is. But like, I don't need you to ruin that on camera for me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. And again, who's eating off this video? Like, who's eating off this video of this goodbye?
Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think of it in terms of like, when I was a little kid, like if that had happened when I was 10, I'd have been like, whoa, what's going on? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, like,
Okay.
because that's how I was when, there was a period of time in my life when I was young enough watching wrestling that I did think that it was real. I mean, when Hulk Hogan and Mr. Wonderful wrestled oh my God, King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant, I think it was. Oh, no, Big John Studd. I'm sorry, Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy versus Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan. And Orndorff turned on Hogan, and the three of them beat Hogan up. I mean, I was like 7 years old. I was crying, literally crying tears, like, because at the time Hogan was my guy. Like, I was like, they're beating up Hulk okay, like, and I thought they were seriously hurting him. Like my dad was like, no, they're not hurting him, and tried to explain to me what was going on. But of course,
Right,
I still don't
right.
understand. I was only 7 or 8, so no. So I mean, by the time that this, at 19, 20, I mean, I already knew for sure that it wasn't, but still, even now, at 48, just because I know it doesn't mean you have to shove it in my face. Doesn't mean you as the product has to make it blatantly obvious that you're
Okay.
pulling the wool over my eyes, right? I mean,
Yeah. No, yeah. No, in that aspect, I do get it. Like you said, don't go out of your way to make it
right.
less reality. Yeah.
And let me ask you, I mean, in all honesty, what did that moment do for anybody but those 4 guys? Why couldn't they have had that moment in behind the what's
The
the
curtain.
oh my god. Yeah, thank you. The curtain. I'm trying to think of the word.
Well,
Behind the
I'll
curtain.
flip it because now I have my HBK fangirl hat on. What had that moment hurt doing it in front of people?
I mean, I just told you
Necessary
that as a
drama.
fan,
Well,
I wasn't
so
necessarily into it. I mean, because it feels unnecessary.
so here's the thing, right? This is before social media. Besides the dude with the like, honestly, I want to know who had
But it wasn't
the
before
camera.
the internet.
Yeah, before the internet, before social media.
No, it wasn't before the internet.
But that's not, boy, let me talk. I'm saying before the internet, before social media, this one dude with a VCR recorder, that was mainly for
It
people
was
in that.
not before the internet, though.
Okay, so what are you trying to say?
It's not before the internet.
Yeah, that's what I said.
They uploaded it online. They shared it in message forms, and thousands, maybe millions of people watched it on the internet.
In real time, right after this happened.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm,
Because those wrestling message forms were like huge in the late 90s, early 2000s. They're all
that they
dead
were.
now. But
Well, that they were, but I'm just trying to remember if you can even watch video like that, let alone WWE letting you. I mean, I don't know that they were uploading video like that or that you had video like that at that time. I mean, you were on a 300 baud modem with an AOL account on a message board that was monochromatic. I mean, I don't even remember any graphics on the message board, let alone being able to show a WWE video. I mean, I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. I could be totally wrong, but I mean, and maybe I'm just thinking of earlier. I mean, I'd have to. I don't know the exact time frame when it all kind of started or whatever, but if I remember correctly, I think that was even before that time. I mean, if we're talking about BBS's bulletin board systems that they had, I mean, those definitely had zero graphics. I suppose you try to think maybe some people did, maybe you could upload a picture. I mean, I don't really even remember that. I mean, the graphics were so like, it was like DOS. I mean, it was all monochromatic, just text on the screen, basically. I mean, I'm trying to remember the first time that I even like saw a video on the internet. I mean, it had to be. I mean, me personally, I'm not talking about the first time they were available. I'm saying the first time I saw one, like that, like on a just on a like a YouTube. I mean, obviously I remember MySpace and the creation of MySpace. I don't know if either of you guys remember that at all.
Oh, that was
Um,
early 2005. Yes.
Okay, so and before
so
that, Napster, or right around that same time when there was Napster, those were like that was the first big music one. MySpace was like there were ones before that, but that was like the first big like everyone's on, everyone's got a page
uh,
type of thing.
okay, so 1991, the first film was streamed on the internet. 1993, the first live concert was streamed on the internet. 1995, Active Movie was launched, allowing users to stream video content.
Okay. So yeah, so I mean, so it was just right around that time. That was just about the birth of active content for the general user. So, I mean, I mean, my question would just be how like how quick the bulletin boards were for someone like me to be able to post something like that or even have access to something like that at that moment in time. Like, obviously, WWE could post it at that point in time if they wanted to, but I'm trying to figure out where they would even post that. Like, when did WWE.com start becoming like a major thing where people were, where they
Oh,
had
they were
like
late to the
videos?
game.
So, I mean, I mean, I guess, it would be private people, the Dave Meltzers of the world that had the videos, and I guess we're posting them for other people to see them and repost them, because otherwise, who would even, have access to do that? I mean, the technology at that time to be able to, like, say you watched it on your TV or it was, bought it on pay-per-view and, put it on your VHS recorder and then move that to your computer and then upload. I mean, nobody knew, no one really knew how to do that or was doing that at that time. Like, there were
Uh,
people, but it was few and far between. I mean,
you'd have to download it to a floppy disk, would you not?
I mean, probably. Again, I don't even remember that time. I mean, yeah, we had 3.5, inch floppy disks for a long time, micro floppies or the actual floppies. Um, Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows? I mean, it'd be such a hard thing. That's why people were. I mean, even at the birth of the internet and bulletin board systems, people were still busy swapping videotapes because it was so hard. I mean, you still weren't really in a position where you could like just upload content easily. Like if it was on a VHS tape or on your television, good luck getting it to your computer at that time. Like for the average person. I'm not saying that obviously some people couldn't, big people couldn't stream a movie or whatever, the major motion pictures or whatever, whoever, or even some people that spent the money to have the equipment in there. But I'm just saying, like at that time, the average person
Uh,
wasn't doing that. Like
yeah.
that's why
Well,
floppy videotapes was so big.
1997, the site shareyourworld.com was launched, and that's
I have
where
no
it
idea what
was
that
like
even was.
YouTube before YouTube.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't
1997.
even never even heard of it before. So I'm telling you just from my own personal usage and being alive in that time frame. Really, I mean, there was stuff before. There were bulletin boards, there was chat forums, there were the AOL chats, there were all that kind of stuff. But like, as far as I can really remember, MySpace was the first of that kind of thing that I remember, and people being on it in that way. And then obviously, it moved to Facebook after that. But I mean, MySpace was really the first thing of that kind of ilk, that actual social media of that kind that I remember. I'm sure there was other stuff, just like there's stuff going on now that I have no idea. There's plenty of social media platforms out there I don't even know the names of or am not involved in that it couldn't even tell you. So, and there might have been at that time too. I'm just telling you from like my mainstream, don't know anything. This is what as a teenager, young adult at that time, that was like the big one that I remember. And I remember it being created, and Tom was
To
everybody's
this
friend.
day, I still don't understand why people switched over to Facebook.
Yeah.
Because like MySpace was like so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only reason I got Facebook is because everybody else was on Facebook, and it's like, all right, well, if I want to talk to them, I got to get on Facebook.
Yep. No, and it's, surprisingly, Facebook has had a lot of staying power. I mean, they've been
Yeah.
around for a long time now. I mean, and to go, I mean, I don't know the whole story. I mean, obviously, I've seen the movie. I don't know how accurate that is. I've read other stuff. I've seen Zuckerberg interviews and all those kinds of things, and but I mean, from what it started as to become what it actually became, and to have the lasting power that it's had. I mean, it's pretty. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Facebook. I think it has good and bad stuff. I mean, I have it and I use it, and in some respects it's great, in others it's terrible.
I
Both on a
use
micro,
Messenger.
and a macro, concept. But big and little picture, I think it's good and bad. But yeah. Ted, 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 Ted. Ted. Oh yeah, speaking of social, support us on all our social. There you again that little QR code with the horse unit. It will take you to Linktree, which will take you from Linktree. You can get to all of our social medias from that one great place. Ted Turner, billionaire mogul. You know, I'll be honest with you. Like, there's nothing wrong with this documentary, but it feels like a documentary that was done for maybe somebody that's never watched a wrestling documentary before. Because honestly, like there hasn't been any. There were a couple few things on last on episode 2, just scandal stuff that like a few scandals I was aware that it had gone down, but other than that, like almost all of this is stuff. If you've watched any WWE documentary about like the rise of WWE or any WCW documentary or any of that, you've seen all this stuff. I mean, there's nothing new here, and I understand it's history, and you're not reinventing history, so it is what it is. Like as long as we're asking the questions still have the same answers. But it's like there just isn't a whole lot new here, in my opinion.
Well, you gotta think. Like, so this was like, I'm pretty sure when they were doing the documentary, the works of having Raw on Netflix was a done deal, or was going to be a done
Sure.
deal, right? So this is like you said.
Nothing.
So this was actually going to be for the people on Netflix. Hey, I'm interested in watching Raw. What should I know about wrestling? So if you're
Yeah.
so if you're just a Netflix watcher and you're just interested, this was supposed to help you get a little bit more, what you call it, up to speed on any wrestling history you want to know. Now, for me personally, I watched the documentary on the Monday Night Wars or the little mini series. I didn't really go into the whole steroid scandal thing because that wasn't really that wasn't my era, so I really didn't care. So it's like,
right.
So to that part, I'm like, oh, this is new. I like that. Okay, cool.
I mean, there have been nuggets here and there of little stuff that's like, oh yeah, that's something that I hadn't heard of or at least was unaware of or whatever. But like, as a general rule, I mean, when you talk about the late '70s and the '80s and the formation of wrestling, I mean, it's not changing, right? History is what it is, right? So it's like, hey, you've heard the story once, you've heard it 1,000 times to a certain extent. So, but yeah, no, I mean, there's little nuggets here and there. And don't get me wrong, I don't know exactly what I was hoping for. It was, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be expecting the reinvention of the wheel. I just,
like you said, is when you do any of these documentaries, it's a matter of getting someone a different perspective. And we got a couple of them, one or two, and the good stuff, really, this stuff we're here for, the whole scandal of Vince McMahon, that's going to be in episode 5 or 6. So
I guess
Vince
okay.
he doesn't regret anything. Like nothing.
When you say the scandal,
nothing to regret.
When you say the scandal, are you talking about the new stuff that's going on with him leaving?
The very new stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. Here's the thing, right? Like, and I guess we'll get there and all that stuff, and maybe some of it isn't what it is. I mean, maybe it's called Mr. McMahon, right? And I feel like it's a wrestling documentary and not a Mr. McMahon documentary. Like, why is it not? You understand what I'm saying? Like, it feels like every other wrestling documentary with Vince McMahon stuff sprinkled in. Like, why? I mean, it's supposed to be a Vince McMahon documentary. Like,
and to that point, even though it's called Mr. McMahon and they did interview him, I wonder if the scandals didn't happen in 21 and 22, where is this going to be called Mr. McMahon? Was it going to be just a wrestling documentary? Like they said, they followed him around to be about his life, but it probably wasn't going to be called Mr. McMahon. It probably be something else.
Well, I don't know exactly what the title was, but it was a Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix. Is how it was announced. It was initially announced.
So far, I would not call this a Vince McMahon documentary. I would call this a WWE documentary with some Vince McMahon stuff sprinkled in. I mean, there's a lot of non-Vince related stuff. I mean, it's all Vince related because he's he is WWE at this time or WWF at this time, but like, the Montreal Screwjob is part of his history, but that's not like, I don't know. I can't explain it. Like, We know about your wrestling history. I want to know about your personal history. That's what I'm talking about.
And
I guess that's the
yeah,
difference.
and unfortunately, off the bat, he said, "I'm not going to tell you everything." So,
I'm
so
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder,
100%.
like, when you interview someone, if someone said that off rip, what's your thought process? Making, like, what's your it's like? All right, so he just straight up told us he ain't gonna tell us everything. So what do we do? Like, do we? Like, we already spent money on the deal. We've already paid the people to produce it. You know?
Yeah. Here we go. Montreal screw job.
See, like, case in point, he just said, I knew about the whole Wendy thing. I didn't. So he was like, I know this was possible. Right. And it's like, yeah. Which is crazy because, like, people really don't talk about the Wendy thing like they talk about the Montreal screw job, right? Because maybe because she's a woman, and even though she did the whole thing with Cindy Lauper, she wasn't as big. But I would still think you would just bring it up to compare both of them, right? Like, oh, this fool did this is the first time this fool did this,
right? And that's definitely what this episode is telling us because they showed Wendy earlier and all that stuff. I think part of it is that wrestling. This is one of its bigger. Wrestling was huge, but I mean, not that it wasn't big then, but it was growing at that point, and it was very big already. Here it had already grown a lot, and just more eyes on it, perhaps, and it's just more memorable because it's your top two men for the top two title where women's wrestling had a different. At that time it was looked at differently and all those kinds of things, like. And I feel like there was never a moment when this happened that you didn't know what the fuck just happened. And like I mean, to be fair, I don't remember watching the Wendy Richter stuff live like that, but I remember it happening, and I don't remember it being like as big a deal. Like it just wasn't as big a deal. Like she didn't make as big a deal about it. They didn't make as big a deal about it. Like some of it is that Bret Hart was like, "Oh fuck that!" From the moment that it happened, I'm not playing this. Like spit in Vince's face and started breaking shit at rings. I'm like, I mean, you're seeing it right here. Like he was like, "Fuck that! I'm not playing this." Where I don't think it was quite the same with Wendy. I mean, they showed it earlier, and she was like, "What?" But like a totally different reaction, right? So like,
Brett still made good on being with the company, though. He was there for like another month or two after it.
mm-hmm.
Like, even after getting screwed, he was like, I promised I'd work for you for this time. I'm going to continue to work for you for this time. Like, makes it seem real shitty that Vince did do that. And when you keep that in mind, of like, he never left the company, even after getting screwed. He didn't leave until his time was up.
Right. Well, that's the difference between a man of honor and a man that has no honor, right? I mean, Brett isn't like a perfect guy by any stretch of the imagination, but at least he's a man of his word. At least that's how it comes off. That's how it appears. I mean, he might not always like that word or agree with that word, but at least he sticks to his word. It's, there's recency bias and a lot of weird, like people forget about stuff, but goddamn, Bret Hart was so fucking good, dude. Like, no disrespect to Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was amazing as well, but like, man, it just at the time, the dude was just levels above everybody, in my opinion. And at the time, I didn't even like him like that. I've only begun to really appreciate him way later. Like, at the time, I was an HBK guy for sure, Shawn Michaels guy. I mean,
I'm just saying. But
I always liked Shawn Michaels more than Bret Hart. Always, always, always. In hindsight, and I still do. in hindsight. But in hindsight, I've really grown to appreciate how good Bret Hart actually was.
And
I like Sting and The Undertaker.
yeah, and
I never was
like
a Sting fan.
you know, as an HBK fan, I have to keep it up. But you can definitely respect Bret and what he did. It really is crazy, and I guess this is Vince being Vince, where it's like, don't tell anyone you knew, hand to God. And you can tell my baby in HBK and Triple H was like, we don't. You can tell in their minds, we don't care because we really thought this was the right thing to do. Like you can tell they didn't want to lie. They're like, we don't want to lie. We knew about. So it's like to make them hold the secret for as long as they did, right? It's like what? Like so you can be the one to say I screwed Bret. Yep, that's the reason because you want to be the one who said I'm the one by myself screwed Bret, which was dumb.
I know he says he doesn't regret anything, but I'm not sure I believe that when the cameras are off and the doors are closed. Like
Vince,
he got his ass whooped. Like how did you not regret? You got spit on. You got your ass whooped. You forever gonna be a clown in this situation. Like
see, this is when I need Linda's perspective. Like, so he says he don't regret anything. Linda, did you have to like? What happened when y'all went home? Did you have to put ice on his back? Did you have to? Was he crying in your lap after this night happened?
wow, I didn't realize it was that close in time. I guess it was.
What?
Right after basically the Montreal screw job, and that interaction with Bret and so on essentially led to the birth of the Mr. McMahon character. I didn't realize that they were so close in time like that. Looking back on it, thinking about watching it at that time, it doesn't feel like it was that close. But I'm obviously they're right and I'm wrong. I mean, my memory is terrible, so I mean, they're obviously right. I mean, I'm just saying it didn't feel like that at the time, so that's a little.
Well, also remember
the
that
kayfabe at
years
the
were
time
not.
is that he wasn't the owner; that he was just a commentator.
No, I knew that.
But
After that
I know
happened,
that.
And remember that years are not as short as they are today. Like years back then, you felt the 365 days. It wasn't like, oh snap, we're like right now. Why the freak is freaking Thanksgiving in a month? This is dumb. Like no, back then a year was a year. All right, I pause.
Well, that is the end of the episode. That was weird. Like normally, it just like my screen went black and then it was over. That was weird. Like it felt like it ended abruptly on my end. And normally, it feels like it ends.
The next episode is entitled "Attitude."
Oh, so we're moving into the Attitude Era. So Cold, The Rock, Mankind. Who else? Undertaker, I guess, more and more.
Yeah.
Spans so many decades. I mean,
from the meat of it, you can definitely say 1997 to 2001. Some people say 2002, which is debatable, but that's really the meat of the Attitude Era. Debatable of when it spiked, but 1997, 2002, that's the Attitude Era.
being, watching it in real time, it felt longer than, what is that, 5 years? 4 years?
Oh no, yeah. So this was
4 or
my
5 years.
era.
It felt longer than that.
It
felt longer than that.
I can definitely tell you it felt way longer. Yeah.
And, I mean, I think it felt longer because, because the wrestlers do span different generations, right? So it's like it's a different era in wrestling, but it's still the same guys. So it feels weird. Like you do get some influx of new guys always, and some other guys leaving and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it's still guys are here for multiple eras of wrestling, depending on what's going on, right? So it does kind of all, sometimes it blends together, especially for me, but that's my memory in general. So So we are done with episode 3 of Mr. McMahon, the Netflix documentary. I mean, we talked a lot about it while we were watching it, but overall, what do you guys think of this episode?
Very solid.
This episode, I think we knew more than the other two. Definitely for me, the first one is like, okay, this we're getting to like, okay, we kind of know what's going on. Besides the whole Wendy thing, it's like, okay, now we're into the. You're gonna have to pull a special perspective out your behind because now we know what we're getting into.
Yeah. All right. So we'll. You want to just crack into our second topic? Our second and final topic of the night, our second segment of the show, I suppose, where we're all going to argue with heated breath our Mount Rushmores. No, Sammy, this isn't a consensus one. I'm not consenting with anyone. I'm not coming to a consensus with anyone. My 4 is my 4, and I don't care what all y'all think. So and we can fight about it if y'all want. No, I don't care. No, you know what's funny? Like, I thought for sure I had 4. So I sat with this, right? And I had 4. And I thought, okay, I got my 4, and I don't care what nobody says. It is what it is. And then I had 3. And I was like, I'm firm on 3. I'm firm on 3. And then I was really firm on 2. And then the third started to waver. And I'm still firm on 3. But the fourth, I've got like 6 people sitting at 4, and I still haven't picked the 4th yet. So I don't know. I'm going to have a 4th as of right now. So we'll see. I hope we're not just spouting off our 4 at one time, because if so, we have to pick something real quick. I kind of hope we go like round robin, and I can.
No,
but the problem is that my 4th is the one that's at the bottom, so it's the one I probably named first. So, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
round robin is our style.
That's true. It is. It is. It is. It is. It is. It is. So, you guys got your 4? We only got to have 4.
Nah.
No, you don't. And in classic Anika fashion, she said, "Nah, I do not." Sammy, you got. I know. Sammy has his 4. Sammy carries around a list of his favorite women's wrestlers in his pocket. So
Okay,
and just updates it as it goes.
Are we doing famous or
Sensational
top?
Series, London Blaze.
Hold on.
So, are we doing favorite 4 or Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
That's just what I was gonna say. So, the 4 women that you think had that I would say had the biggest impact, or the best in the ring, that in your opinion wrestling wouldn't be what it is without these people, these 4 women, which is why 3 and 2 or 3. I had 2 of them. I feel 100% confident on. The other ones I'm a little It's hard. It's hard because there's a lot of women when it gets down to it that like really, when you're talking about criteria, like if you're looking at championships, there's a lot of women with a lot of multiple championships that surprised me. I was unaware that like a Mickey James has 6 or 7 overall women's titles in WWE. Like, that really surprised me, and that's more than other people than I thought. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, like, now to be fair, Mickey James, her impact is debatable, but she's solid in the ring, and she probably belongs somewhere in a conversation, not on Mount Rushmore, but just in the thought process when you're laying out best women of all time in WWE. I mean, so.
We're doing WWE.
Just WWE. Just WWE. Just WWE.
Yeah. See, like, putting more stamps on it, it does make it a little bit harder. Most definitely.
Yeah. So, okay, Sammy, go ahead and give us one, not all 4. Just give us one of your 4 right now.
Londra Blaze.
Okay. I.e. Medusa. So you got to tell people who they are. They're both. So, and she is, so, okay, I had 4, then I got to 3. She was in that one of the 6 women in that 4th position. I had 6 other women in that 4th position, and she is one of them. I think it's pretty undebatable that her and Moolah, for many intents and purposes, carried women's wrestling and were women's wrestling for the longest time. She and then when Moolah wasn't around, she was definitely, and Moolah was already old, she was definitely women's wrestling basically.
Oh.
The problem that I have is the same problem. Sorry, I don't mean to just dominate the conversation, but
No.
the problem that I have,
The whole spring flip thing kind of threw me off. Proceed.
the problem that I have with the conversation is the same problem that I have with the men's conversation, is that it's evolved so much that it's almost hard to compare, because her in-ring ability doesn't compare, in my opinion, doesn't live up or match up to a lot of the women that came after her more recently, since wrestling has evolved. And it's not her fault. It's just a symptom of when she did it. But I think you still have to, that has to factor into my decision. So,
And also, again, like, it's hard to put people in the Mount Rushmore when they're not, you haven't experienced them as well. So, like, Alundra Blayze, I've heard of the name. I know she's in the Hall of Fame, but I don't think I've ever seen her in a match. Like, I didn't even go back and watch a match. So it really is like, I understand. I'm not going to fight it, but it's like, there you go. There's no emotional or mental connection to that name. Even though I know she's a legend, I know she did all these great things, but it's like, okay, cool. Like, sure, okay.
So, Sammy, tell us why she belongs on your Mount Rushmore. Why she's on your Mount Rushmore.
She was an era of the women's division. She was at the top of the mountain for quite a time. Like, she was a solid wrestler too, which was really rare for women's wrestling during that era.
Yeah.
Like, usually for honestly decades, it was just about who looks the best.
Yeah. That's true. And to be honest with you, I mean, I think she suffered from, I think, in my opinion, she suffers from a little bit of lack of competition.
Oh, yeah.
There definitely wasn't a whole lot of women doing it at that point in time, which goes, again, not her fault. It just is what it is, but it can't help but be part of the conversation, at least. I mean, now, that I do believe that she was the type of talent that if she was here today, she would still be a main event talent. I do believe that. I think that she had that ability then, that she would be main event in whatever generation she was in, in their prime at. So, in that regard, she definitely belongs in the conversation. And I'm not, we obviously, this is our own, so we're not complaining about other people. So obviously, but no, that's a solid, Mount Rushmore person. So do you have one, Anika, first? We're just going one at a time. So go ahead. Who's your very first?
So
or your last or whatever.
Very first solid, there was no competition for me, Lita. Lita was talking about a person who stood out and carried a division. Even though we're talking about 1998, 2000s, there were there were more female wrestlers, but they weren't wrestling in the ring. It was more so there were bikini contests. We're going to do some clothesline and power bombs here and there. She actually did some wrestle. Like, she actually went to Mexico to learn how to do the lucha style of wrestling. And she was beautiful, but she did not let that carry what she did on television. And then you team her, and then it's all about how you promote people. Team Extreme, aka Nat and Jeff Hardy, were probably the best tag team of the Attitude Era. And so whoever was assigned to them, you had to match that vibe. And she matched that vibe seamlessly. It was like a no-brainer. And then she breaks off around 2000, the brand split, which the first brand split is really the best brand split when they were doing the draft. Because they were really breaking teams up, and they were really hurting the soul. Like, they broke up with the Dudleys, they broke up Team Extreme. It's like, what are you doing? Wait, hold up, you can't do this. But when you do that, it gives someone the ability to shine. And in that time, Lita shined to me. Lita shined in, like I said, Attitude Era. besides one other person who is on my Mount Rushmore, there was no competition. Yes, they were going against other girls, but they were the top. She was the top two of that era, point blank, period.
Divas era, am I not mistaken?
Not even so. This is before Divas era. This is before they were calling them Divas. It was still
Okay.
when she became big. It was still the women's world heavyweight champion. Divas era
Okay.
came out. But like I said, I think she only had the butterfly belt maybe once. I want to say 2004, 2005 is when I had the Divas
Right.
belt. But like I said,
Yeah. She Lita was ahead of her time, no doubt.
she was definitely ahead of her time.
She was one of those that was extremely athletic. She was the first woman. I mean, there were other. I mean, she was in there at the same time as Trish, and there were a couple other women that were kind of whatever. But Lita was the first woman I remember going, "Holy smokes!" Like she's athletic, like these guys are athletic. Like
She was not
in the
a
same
model.
regard. And right, exactly, and that was part of it too. You know,
Yeah.
she didn't necessarily have that classic WWE aesthetic look. She stood out. She was unique. All those kinds of things. She was definitely ahead of her time, and she was one of those that stood out at the time. I mean, she, like I said, I had 4, then I had 3, and that 4th spot was there's like 6 people. She's one of those 6. Medusa was one of those 6. Lita's one of those 6. So I when I get to that spot, I might end up having one of those with that spot. You guys have made a great argument for both. Now I don't know which one I want to put there. I still have like 4 others, and I'm still in debate for it. So, but I know that y'all are gonna boo. Well, Sammy won't boo. Anika will boo. CM will be glad she's not here. I don't know how you have a conversation about WWE women's wrestling and don't mention the woman that holds the single most WWE championships all time, who is the queen of WWE, who I believe, and this is probably, well, I don't want to give away too much, but I just don't know how you have a Mount Rushmore for WWE women's wrestling or WWF without Charlotte on it. And I think for me, Charlotte Flair is the number one. She's the greatest WWE women's wrestler of all time, in my personal opinion.
Personal opinion, but go on pontificate about why she should be on the Mount Rushmore. Go ahead.
Like I said, she holds more champions than anybody else. She has more faces overall than anybody.
I don't like her when you said that.
CM says that she can't wrestle. I disagree. I mean, I think as she's gotten older, I think she's slowed down a little bit. But when they first came from NXT and she was, going in her prime, I think she was a phenomenal wrestler. The moonsault looked beautiful always. She had personality. She had her dad's personality. Charisma, more charisma than most wrestlers, men or women, have ever. She has it in spades, all those things. I think she's a good, it's a solid to very good promo. She's not great, but she's a solid to very good promo. I don't know. I just think it's hard to argue with the impact. I think it's hard to argue with me. I don't want to say too much because it's going to give away too much. For me, I just think there's few that have had, even though other people have done it at different times when maybe it felt like whatever. For me, as a wrestling fan, a lifelong wrestling fan, and to be fair, I was one of those wrestling fans that was a little hesitant and a little resilient, or a little oh my God, get the words out. Reticent about women's wrestling, and it took me a while to get to it. I feel like Charlotte Flair and that time frame, them on NXT and her on NXT and her moving up to the main roster, was for me really when women's wrestling changed and became something totally different, where they started to treat it and book it like men's wrestling. They still don't, or more like men's wrestling. They gave it much more, I feel like, due. The women were much more talented. It felt like all of a sudden supremely more talented as a whole. And I don't know. It just felt like, I don't know. So
here's the thing about why I don't think she'd be on the Mount Rushmore. And like, I am not saying that she is not talented. I am not saying that she is not a decent promo. One of the best promos that I love she was involved in, aka you standing here and you don't even go here. Like that doesn't work unless you have someone to bounce it off of, right? So here's why I am hesitant of putting her on my Mount Rushmore. Because nowadays, you know about the backstage politics of any industry, any entertainment industry, sometimes even the sports industries, right? Of how stuff is set up for people to shine. And so it is like, it feels like they are already predetermined that she was going to be the face of the women's evolution, even though you have a Becky Lynch, even though you have a Sasha Banks. And it's like, why her? And it is kind of hard to get past why you kind of know why her. And it's like, I didn't do it. So in my mind, why couldn't this be a Sasha Banks during this era? Why couldn't this be like you said, the most decorated person? We know this is predetermined. So why did you want Charlotte to have all of these championships, right? So it really, so that's why I'm kind of tugging with her being. Okay, there you go. I'll conclude with this.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, you don't think so? The same stuff doesn't apply to say a Shawn Michaels or a Triple H. I mean, you don't have those same issues with those guys having multiple titles. I mean, they're white guys. You don't think that had anything to do with it? I mean,
well, definitely Shawn Michaels, because Shawn Michaels is again not even the white guys, but the ideal body type, the ideal facial features. Even though Shawn Michaels was thicker in the 90s than he was in 2000s, he was still a smaller man. He wasn't a Hulk Hogan. So you can tell that as soon as another Hulk Hogan-esque person was going to come along, they're going to get the belt off of him. Case in point, Kevin Nash, aka Diesel, it's like he just came in. Oh, he's harder than Shawn. Let him beat Shawn for the belt. So you can tell, like, Vince had his image of who should be the freaking who should be the champion or the face of WWE. So that's why I'm like, definitely Shawn. And even Triple H, he wasn't winning that thing until he got not steroids, but what was the vitamins he promoted? I think it was Stacks 8 something. It was eat the Stacks 8, the UPN commercial.
This is a tough situation, right? Because there's a lot of people, I think, WWE clearly, people, melanated people, as Dolores would put it, have not thrived in wrestling or WWE. Let's put it that way, right? So in any generation, right? So on either men's or women's, right? So right. I mean, it's hardly fair to just. I mean, I think it's unfair to shackle Charlotte with that. I mean, it might be a little more glaring because she was doing it maybe next to Mercedes. But, at the same time, I feel like Mercedes, we'll get there. But, doesn't have, she has nothing to, I think they're on equal playing field. So,
that's what I'm saying. She's never talented, but because more so Vince shoved her down our throats. We never know. Like, there we go. Organically, would she have gotten over by herself? We'll never know. And that's why I can't put her on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. And that's fair. All right, Timmy, who's your second person?
Sensational Sherry.
Interesting. It's a very interesting one. I mean, I know
Did she wrestle? I know she wrestled by a couple of matches, but
yeah, she wrestled for you.
Yeah, she did. But again, Alundra Blaze style, Moolah style. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on in women's wrestling really at that time. She was definitely more, and she made her name as more of a manager. Now, she was a women's champion, and she definitely had women's matches, no doubt about it. But I still think her biggest claim to fame was especially being Shawn Michaels' manager for a long time. But
Hi, Sean.
I mean, I don't know. She for me just I don't know. But again, it's not, yours is yours and mine is mine. So
Well,
yeah, I mean, do
pontificate.
you want to talk about
Yeah.
why she's on yours?
She was wrestling a physical style before anybody else really was.
This is true.
Like,
She was ahead of her time.
and the thing is that like because she did it, like the company didn't like it, and so she became a manager instead. And she busted through that, busted through her expectations, and she was one of the best managers of all time. She's a Mount Rushmore of managers,
Yes, that I would
all
say.
through having to deal with everything else around her. Because if she could have been in the ring, she would have been in the ring.
Yeah. I mean, again, I mean, as we're all having our own Mount Rushmore, not coming to a consensus. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I think for a long time, she definitely, she made her mark in women's wrestling, when she was there. I just, for me, yeah, I mean, definitely, I mean, she might be, number one on the women's managers Mount Rushmore, but she might be, she's definitely probably on the all-time men's and women's Mount Rushmore managers. So, but that's just more how I think of her. But again, I mean, teach your own. All right, Anika, who's your number two or your second person? How's that?
My second, yeah, this is going like now we're getting. I don't have a first, second, third. This is definitely
It's just four equal people, right? These are
four
the four
equal
that your four
people
pillars, right? Your
and
pillars. Let's put it that way. Your faces, right?
my pillars. And I'm trying not to tie myself to an era of my life. I'm like, right? I'm trying to be like, okay, let's not keep it in attitude era, even though I could definitely pick two more up in there, but I'm not. I'm gonna throw it back. Shoot. Mount Rushmore. Move the needle. Face of WWE. All right, I'm going with the easy one, and then the two would debate with it. The other one, you need a good dance partner, and for Lita, that person was Trish Stratus. You can't have Lita without Trish Stratus, basically, because like case in point, with Lita, even though she was a high flyer, she didn't have a competition back in the day. And with Trish, her story is a little bit different because she did come in as a model, and she did come in as a manager, but somehow the switch clicked where she was like, okay, I want to learn how to wrestle. And she wasn't just learning how to do basic moves. She actually did the work to become where when you saw her in the ring, it was actually quite entertaining. And then after the Attitude Era, it was basically her and Lita carrying that division for a good 4 to 5 years. Where it was yes, she had some people up in there, but as the face, if they weren't on screen, I'm not sure if other people would have gotten over. Like in my mind, Victoria, great wrestler. She is one of my personal favorites. But if you did not have a Lita or Trish to fight her, she wouldn't have gotten over. Case of that same era, Victoria, great wrestler, but you had for Lita and Trish, and more so Trish, you needed that personality. You needed that bigger, larger than life person who could carry a story. And I think that when people are doing the whole Lita and Trish comparison, and people do Trish over Lita, I think they do Trish over Lita because she could carry a story. She could become a babyface. She could become a heel. Yes, she was good. Yes, she made herself decent in the ring, but it was more so back in the day, storyline wise, of why I want to see someone beat you up or you beat someone up. She could carry a story very, very well. Like some of the best moments of her turning on Jericho and going with Christian. That's probably one of the best WrestleMania angles ever. Story in the women's division, her breaking her face, and I think she was probably the first person to wear the broken face mask and start wrestling at the heel with that on. So as she was a very diverse character. You can, again, whatever she did, you got invested in, and
Mm-hmm.
she can't. She has to be on the mountain. She has to be on the mountain. Say no more.
I mean, like I said, I had 4, then 3, and she's one of the 6 that was in that 4th spot, and that still is in that 4th spot. So, you can't deny the impact that Trish Stratus had. Her and Lita carried that, the women's division for a long time. It felt like the only reason that my only issue with Trish is just I feel like when I look at her compared to some other women, she never quite reached the in-ring ability. I think she was really good on the microphone. I think she had a lot of personality.
Yes.
She obviously, not necessarily my favorite look, but has Vince's favorite look, has, a look that WWE likes aesthetically. So, I mean, in those regards, I mean, she definitely, she made her mark. I mean, you can't deny she's a Hall of Famer and she deserves to be a Hall of Famer. For me, when I look at the actual between the war ropes, athletic ability and work, I think that's the one thing that's keeping her off of it for me. But she's right there. Like I said, she's competing for that last spot, and I still haven't picked one yet. We'll do that when it comes time with
the Four and Impossible.
But so yeah, I mean, what else can be said about Trish Stratus? So
you're up now.
All right. So the second person on my list, I mean, I don't think you can have one without the other. I mean, I said it was Charlotte Flair, so you've got to have Mercedes Moné or Sasha Banks. I mean, I think she's a Mount Rushmore as well. I mean, if I'm putting, 4 people up, I mean, this for me is when women's wrestling turned into what it is today and what it's become in many respects. And so I don't think you have one without the other. And I think they're both there. That for me, and we're gonna get there, but it was a perfect storm situation. So you have them with each other and doing what they do, and I think it is what it is, and both of them belong, in my opinion, on Mount Rushmore. We all know Mercedes well. I don't need to talk too much about her. She doesn't have quite the titles that Charlotte does or that Becky does. She's a few short of Becky, but everyone's short of Charlotte at this point. So Charlotte's almost doubled up everybody at this point. So, which seems a little egregious. I don't know that she's quite. I don't think she's that much better than everybody else, but she's definitely, But so no, I mean, she's there at the same time as Charlotte, and they basically go hand in hand in many respects. And like I say, you can't have one without the other. So I think if one's there, the other one's got to be there. So for me, it's Mercedes.
Most definitely.
Renato, Sasha Banks. Let's say it that way. So. All right, Sammy, what about you? Or you guys want to say anything about Sasha?
Oh no, you're talking about hand in hand. That first 2006, they're literally just hopping back from Charlotte to Mercedes, where it's like Charlotte won the reviews and Mercedes won at Raw, and I'm like, they really couldn't flip it just one time, but it's fine though. Whatever.
I mean, like, one of my favorite women's wrestlers of all time, like, bar none. She has phenomenal matches. We haven't seen the extent of what her impact will be, but like, you're not going to hear any hateful words from me.
Yeah, most definitely not. Nope.
All right, Sammy, who's next on your third piece? China. Yeah, she didn't really make my conversation. I mean, she's in my thought process in my head, but she didn't make like my list, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean,
well, I can tell you why for me. Like I was doing watch-alongs, and I'm like in the ring. I'm like, oh, in the ring, she could have done better. She could have done better. But impact wise, oh my God, you can't argue against that, not whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely did things that other women had never done, and she was unique and stood out. And in many regards, her story is an extremely tragic story. And
Yeah.
from just beginning to end, in many respects, she never had what I would call an easy life, even when it looked like things were good for her. I'm not sure that they really were. So and for me, I think that the issue with China was that they didn't quite necessarily know what to do with her. They
Hmm.
wanted her to be the muscle essentially for a group that doesn't need muscle. I mean, the concept of a woman being muscle for men that do combat sports is a weird concept in general. Um, so she's to me, it's an odd concept to begin with. But and then they had to. I just think she suffered from a lot of not being booked in a way that she was really able to show like her wrestling
Hmm.
skills and those kind of stuff, or even talk enough to show a lot of her ability, which is why she just didn't make the list for me. Um, but again, I mean, you can't argue with. That's so funny because that's exactly what I was gonna say. That's
What?
exactly what I was gonna say. Like Marina Shafir and to John Moxley. I mean, it feels very weird. Now, Marina Shafir is a badass, but it feels weird to have the thought that Moxley needs anyone to be his muscle, let alone a woman to be the muscle, just because it is what it is, right? So, but China, was definitely one of a kind, and I don't, I'm not going to say any bad words about her just in general. I mean, I don't have anything to say about her. For me, she just is off the list just because I don't think she had enough in ring time per se, and just but her impact is undeniable. Was undeniable for
No,
sure.
it's definitely undeniable. And you can just tell, like, she should be on here just because of legacy. Like, you can tell, like, when we talk about the Mount Rushmore, you can look at the girls that are behind them, and they're like, okay, they definitely took their ring style or their personalities from so and so. So China is like, oh boom, Awesome Kong, oh boom, Beth Phoenix, oh boom, Rhea Ripley, oh boom, Raquel Rodriguez. It's like you can literally say, oh, they're trying to be the next China.
Yeah. No, I
And
mean I see that to a certain extent. Yeah.
yeah, and I was trying, like, and I was thinking about her, but I'm like, all of my girls can't be from the same era, so I'm like, let me choose someone else. That's literally why I didn't choose her. 'Cause I'm like, but talking about all the people who probably mimicked their image and how they wrestle. Yeah, it was from China. It's probably from the first thing was, okay, this is China. How can I improve on that? But China was probably the basis of a lot of women wrestlers, big girl wrestlers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean I definitely can see that. I mean she definitely influenced, probably a lot of people for sure. I mean definitely broke ground for bigger women and bigger wrestlers in that regard. Like you see with the Rhea Ripley's now and so on. And like you said, a lot of the names that you mentioned for sure. So I mean you can't, I mean there's no real argument against it other than just, for me it just I
In
felt like
ring.
yeah, in ring, it just a lack of in ring overall. Like, I mean, I think they booked her when it came to the in ring competition because she was supposed to be like the muscle for DX. They booked her to be very strong, and so they didn't want her to wrestle a lot of women, right? I mean, that she
But
didn't wrestle a whole lot of women. And they don't do intergender wrestling. So, I mean,
yeah,
she had scuffles with men and stuff a few times, but like a lot of her time was just spent looking, whatever, or doing a move, and that was it, and or being done. Like I no, I mean, to be fair, I couldn't tell you a lot of people, but I don't remember like a match of China's where it's like, oh my god, like China killed it. It's amazing. Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like as far as in match in ring
right.
work. So I just,
It
but
was
it is
definitely
what it
just
is. So
moments. It was definitely moments.
yeah,
Side note, her best I like a smart bodyguard. So her best bodyguard moment was when they were surrounding the ring, and before they could surround the ring completely, she got 3 chairs and threw them in the ring to Triple H. And like, yes, okay, we're gonna be just 3 of us. We're gonna have chairs. We're just gonna just bat them all off to the chair. until they really want to knock you butt. But like, no, we're gonna have 3 chairs and we're gonna defend the turf. Yes, that's smart. Okay.
Yeah, Dolores says trying to wrestle 13 New Japan matches, which is amazing. I mean, I never seen any of those, so I'll
I
have to
would
try to find those and check those out and watch those. I mean, I bet that's fun to watch. So,
like side note, I really want to know. I really want a documentary of New Japan late 2000s, 1990s, because just hearing that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall came out to Ready or Not, I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What? I need footage of this, you can't tell me you don't have this. Like these moments, I need to see. I need to see y'all, please.
all right. So, Anika, you're in third face.
Third, okay. It might be China, but let me think a little bit longer. Come on, again, it's only 4. It's only 4. It sucks. And so I'm.
Dolores says Bianca.
So this is my third. The fourth one we're gonna see which one I'm gonna put a stamp on. But controversially, my third one is Sable.
Really?
So this is why. Talking about legacy and talking about the women who have gone after you. You can't tell me after Sable there wasn't a gaggle of chicks that was trying to be Sable. And like the Divas era was basically who's going to be the next Sable. And even though there was no denying that she was a model and she was there for her body. She did get in the ring. She did tussle a little bit. Her power bomb was pretty sick. But talking about but more so talking about legacy and people who are designing themselves to be the next image of this person. You can't deny that, the whole Divas era was basically trying to be the next Sable. Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, Candice Michelle, all them chicks was trying to be the next Sable. And even though I would say Tori Wilson got close, Sable was one of a kind. Sable was one of a kind where it really was. I was even though I was interested in watching her and watching how she would interact in the world of WWE. That was just me. So I know it's a controversial pick, but I'm going to say Sable.
I mean, that's why they're our Mount Rushmores. I mean, to be fair, honestly, when you said Sable, that was the first time she crossed my mind in this conversation in any way, shape, or form. I mean, she didn't even cross my mind. But you made good arguments for her. I mean, I don't think of her as a wrestler. I think of her as a manager and a valet, and I don't even know that I think of her as a great manager or valet. But I do agree that she came before all those people, and all those people were, in many respects, she influenced a lot of those people, and is the archetype for, in many respects, kind of what we call the WWFE aesthetic, right, to a certain extent.
Yes.
So. That's definitely, you can't argue with that. I mean, and them things were thanging back in the day, no doubt about it. I mean, he said. So she said, really? She married that fake black man, sued for.
Look, Deborah, you gonna have to get over that man was not black. You don't have to get over that, baby. You gonna have to get over that.
Then sued harass her best friend. She's wild, she says.
Yeah. In her real life, that's your real life. But but WWF, she was there we go. She was an attraction. She was definitely an attraction, and you cannot deny that other people were trying to be the Sable attraction. And best rivalry was definitely her versus Jackie. I will always love that rivalry.
Yeah. Well, I'm not as generous as either of you because It could have been 4 real easily. So I'm sticking right with the same spot. It's a sweet pocket. I don't care if you guys like it or don't, or anybody does it. The third person on my Mount Rushmore has to be Becky Lynch. You don't have a Sasha Banks, you don't have a Charlotte Flair, you don't have a Becky Lynch without either three of them. This for me is when it could be the four. For me, it was going to be the 4 horsewomen. I mean, I think that's. I mean, it could just be Bayley and call it good. I'm good with that. Like the 4 horsewomen are for me when wrestling, especially WWE wrestling, made its turn for the better, and we have what we have now. That's why we have what we have now. So, for my opinion, all 4 of those could have been up there. Bayley's now one of those 6 that's arguing for that 4th spot. I don't know if she's there because there's a lot of people that have made a good argument tonight.
Come on now.
But originally, I was just going to say the 4 horsewomen and move on. I don't care if it's from the same generation or not. I feel like that generation turned it around. I mean, there's no denying what they all have done as a foursome as far as whatever. Now, Bayley has the least accolades, which isn't necessarily her fault, which is why she was going to be like the 4th, and she is kind of the 4th in general when you talk about them. But she holds her own too. I mean, when it really boils down to it. Now, the reason that I think that they all belong here and Bayley's debatable is because when we do talk about impact, for me, I believe that the 4 horsemen is the most, well, maybe now the NWO, I don't know, but is one of the 2 most well-known wrestling name factions, whatever, stables, whatever you want to call it, in the history of wrestling. And I believe that these 4 women had, in many respects, the same impact that those 4 guys had at the time. I think Ric Flair revolutionized wrestling in many respects. I think the 4 horsemen revolutionized it in many respects. And in my opinion, the 4 horsewomen, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Mercedes or Sasha Banks, and Bayley, revolutionized WWE women's wrestling forever. And it's never been the same ever since. And it won't ever go back to, I don't think it'll ever go back to what it was. And I think that's because of them. And I think it's all 4 of them. So I think there's a really strong argument for Bayley being that 4th, but we'll get there in a minute here and I'll choose my 4th at that time. But definitely those 3 for me. I mean,
honestly, if you would have put, I was debating that. Like sometimes, like honestly, you could have put them in one group, and I would have been okay. I would have got no arguments. Cause it really is like, even though they try to push one more than the other,
yeah,
they were all. It was still 4. It was still like they were still the great in that era of 2016 to I would say 2022. It was the best matches was them facing each other. It really was. So it's like, yeah, you had a couple of you had a couple of hidden gems. You call it Anaska here, Alexa Bliss, Nikki Bella, but it really was those 4. So if you want to put them in one category as one face, I would be okay with that. I really, yeah. Like honestly, it really was. I'm thinking, like, in my mind, I want to choose Becky, but how can I choose Becky and not choose Sasha? Or how can I choose Becky and not choose Mercedes? So it really is that hard to differentiate them being individual champions, even though they are individual champions. But when you say who's Charlotte's best match, you can't tell me you don't say Sasha or Becky. You take Becky's best match. You can't say one between Charlotte or, like, you really can't say it's somewhere outside of these women.
Yeah. Dolores says Sherry was an attraction. Miss Elizabeth, Mae Young, Stephanie is character, Bella Twins, Natalia, Tamina, Moolah, Ivory, Molly Holly. It's a lot to choose from.
Now,
yeah, I mean, they're over the years.
Honorable mention. Stephanie McMahon was doing her thing in the Attitude Era. Year 2000. Stephanie was my chick. I don't like the real life consequences of their actions. That's why I don't like to dwell on that. But in WWE, year 2000, Stephanie was my chick. I'm not sure why y'all booing this woman, because she was my chick. And I was here for the whole ride. All right.
I hear you. Sammy, your fourth face.
So, I initially was going to say somebody, but I actually am convinced and I'm changing my number 4. I'm going with Becky Lynch.
Ah, all right. All right, all right. Who was your number 4?
Trish Stratus.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I just talked about Becky Lynch, so we all know. Probably don't need to say a whole lot more about Becky Lynch,
Yeah.
but so that's your fourth. All right, Anika, who is your last face on your Mount Rushmore? I'm forcing you to go first because I have no idea who I'm going to say in a minute. I literally don't know. Like I don't know.
It is hurt, and I'm gonna have this personal conversation out loud with y'all. I'm black, so my mind, wants to pick a Jackie from 1998, or a Mercedes, or a Bianca, or a Naomi. But it's like so I have to be impartial and say the face of WWE Mount Rushmore best women's superstar. I real life want to put all 4 horsewomen together in one little group, in one little face. Because honestly, I really do feel like, even though they try to make it's like a twin syndrome, where it's like, yes, y'all are individuals, but y'all know that y'all are better as a set.
Right.
Markable wise, y'all are better. It's Tia and Tamara, not just Tia, not just Tamara, or not just Kate, or not just Mary Kate, not just Ashley. It's Mary Kate and Ashley. It's like so.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta make a decision. Face that runs the place. Yes, screw it. 4 horsewomen are all together in my book. You get, like, I'm sorry. Even though they all had individual success, and they all are individually great. You can, like, in the era of 2016, 2020, 2022, you can't have one without the other. And so, yes, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair. The 4 horsewomen I'm putting on the final face of Mount Rushmore.
All right. Obviously, I can't argue with that because 3 of my faces are 3 of your 7 faces now, I guess. So, I still don't know. I don't have a fourth face.
I was real life I was trying to put AJ Lee in there, but it's like, was AJ Lee, was she great, or was she a product of her environment, where they had a bunch of divas and she was like, screw that, I want to wear my Converse and skip like a crazy person?
Oh man,
it's hard.
Okay. I'll give you the names I had. I said I had Lita, I had Trish, I had Bayley, I had Rhea, I had Bianca. Those are the 6 I was looking at that 4th spot. But honestly, now talking about everything that we've talked about tonight and Impact and all of that stuff, I mean, I just don't think. I mean, I love Rhea and Bianca, and I think that they deserve to be in that conversation. The jury's still out on their careers. There's
Exactly.
still so much to go on that it's still hard to tell. And unfortunately for both of them, they've come along in an era where I feel like, even though they both have made their stamp on it, the era is what it is, and they're wrestling in an era that's already been created to a certain extent. So their impact per se, like, isn't necessarily something that's like new and whatever. Like, that isn't fair to them. Man, this is so hard. I mean,
boo you, Dolores, because no offense, what you call it, Sriracha came back and we definitely was like, okay, she was a product of her environment, where you can tell right now she wasn't Was she a great wrestler or was she just different?
We know she was a
Different.
horrible person, and again, a product of a lot of lack of competition, women's wrestling being not taken serious. But our conversation of legacy, longevity, impact, people carrying stuff, my head just can't get away from the originator of women's wrestling in many respects. I don't know how Moolah can't at least be in that conversation. She is the reason that there is women's wrestling for all intents and purposes and all. I mean, she was women's wrestling for 60 years. I mean, really,
Yeah.
to be fair. So, man, this is such a hard one, man. There's so many people. Gosh. You know what? I'm gonna do what Anika did, and I'm gonna stick with my ultimate guns, and I'm just gonna put Bailey there because I still can't get past the impact that the Ultimate Four Horsewomen had in general, in my opinion. So, the four faces for me are the four horsewomen. It's Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, and Bailey. That's my Mount
Solid.
Rushmore. You can't have one without the other. All four of them are intertwined, and that, like I said, even though it came a little later, in the timeline years wise, I do think that they forever changed the way women wrestle in WWE and the way that women are booked in WWE. So, yeah.
Man, literally July 2020, and Bailey and Sasha won them tag team belts. I rewatched that celebration over and over again, where Bailey was being so freaking obnoxious to Sasha Banks' theme song. The new champ of WWE! Oh my gosh! Two title belt Bailey! They're so heavy! They're so heavy!
Dolores says Bianca made history by winning the 2021 Women's Royal Rumble match. She became the second African American wrestler. Yeah. No, Bianca she was in that. She's vying for that fourth one. I think in 5 years, I think she'll be there somewhere. I think we'll just have to see, and Rhea could be there potentially too. The jury's still out,
The thing about
That's it.
Oh, real quick. The thing about those two is their careers are still going. If alternate perspective, if Sasha Banks stopped wrestling, if Bailey stopped wrestling, if Charlotte stops wrestling, if Becky stops wrestling, it's still solidified. What they did since they debuted and right now, if they stop wrestling, it's solidified. Not saying that Bianca isn't solidified, but I do think she does need one more title run to solidify it. That's just me.
Oh, here we come. She's going to come on to argue her point.
Listen, I am going to argue my point very concisely, very demure. I'm going to argue by showing you all this. If you don't know about my girl Bianca, she is that one, okay? That one. Not just in wrestling, but period. And she has her own show that's doing great. And she's doing the endorsement and brand deals. And she is dragging the women's division across the line. And she picked Otis up. So you tell me,
and she picked Otis up.
And she still.
Why are you yelling, Dolores?
All of this.
Why are you yelling?
All of this. And still ain't good enough for you.
Hey. What we're not going to do is use different words to make me feel bad. No one said she wasn't good enough. We're saying her career is not done.
She didn't make it to your top 4, though. She didn't make it.
Because she's not done, though. She's not done.
Look at all she's done in a short amount of time. And she's a good promo. And she's good in the ring. And she has strength. And she can lift up Otis. My girl Sasha, I love her, but she's not good enough. She ain't good enough.
Excuse you. Okay. Since we're gonna go there, all right. She does. All right. You
talking about? We're gonna talk about Sriracha. Let's keep it. If we're gonna keep it about Sriracha, let's keep it a buck. Since Mercedes has been in AEW, you telling me you excited just like you were in WWE to see her?
Yes, I am. What you're not gonna do is because all these outside crackheads don't like Mercedes for whatever reason.
All she do is CEO.
I like her better in AEW than I did in WWE.
And then no. Side note, let's do this. All right, you talking about Sasha Banks, who is a 6-time women's world championship, who did the first ever women's Iron Man match, the first ever Hell in a Cell match, the first ever TLC match. You want to compare that to Bianca?
But her greatest match and the match that earned her an ESPY is the one she had with who? Bianca.
That's because ESPN want to be slow to the plate.
Listen,
and ESPN want to get on the WWE bandwagon.
Freedom, but yet she needed a writer to come help her, and still ain't doing good.
But
tell me that.
So
she can't even keep her wig straight. That's another thing.
She won that with Bianca. You act like Bianca won the thing by herself. She won it with Bianca.
But listen, how many times have we had a problem with Sasha now? First of all, we just gonna talk about her promos have been whack lately. Her wigs have been whack lately. Listen, she's just been whack all around. Bianca does her own clothing. Bianca does her own hair. Bianca does her own promos. Bianca does her own matches very well, set them up. She also, if I remember right, was able to pick a big man named Otis and lift him up and drag him across the ring. And she hasn't had too many major injuries, unlike the other counterpart that we're talking about. I think she's an overall good person, a good fit. Listen, Sasha, she's a good wrestler. But she's injury prone and not a good promo. We see this now. She has shown us who we are. Believe it.
Now we gonna compare people. Which title reign do you want? Bianca and Jade's tag team title reign, or Sasha and no, Sasha and Bailey's tag team title reign is way better than Jade and Bianca's title reign. Do not do that.
I just got a question to the other two co-hosts. Did they not walk out? Like, didn't they, like, quote unquote, backstage, like, didn't had a hissy fit and was mad about the way that they were treated?
Okay, no.
That means they didn't like themselves.
Full story. They were saying if you make us drop these belts to the Iconics, then these belts are going to go in the trash. So after they dropped them belts, do you remember after the Iconics that whole title reign?
You telling me Vincent Kennedy gave them a better run than Triple H is giving Jay and Bianca?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
So far, yes.
Yes.
I think yeah.
Yes.
Bailey and them won.
You forget? Did you not forget that they lost? Did you not forget that they lost to the freaking Scottish people because they were Scottish? They lost to the Scottish people because they were Scottish.
In the midst, after they lost to the Scottish people, they did a whole bunch of commercials, a whole bunch of tours around promoting WWE like they were ambassadors, taking their time off, enjoying them. First of all, I just want to say, out of the women you named, one of them has a child and is up here body slamming and throwing folks around. Jade. One came from another company. Jade is still killing it and looking great. Jade. While the other one can barely keep her wig on.
You know this doggone wig.
All right. So Dolores, unfortunately, you came on the show, so now you have to give us your Mount Rushmore. Just give us your 4 quickly.
I like Chyna.
Yes.
I like Lita.
Yes.
I like Bianca.
Yes.
And I used to be a Charlotte fan. I'm no longer a Charlotte fan. I would say, for me as a kid, it's Sensational Sherry didn't wrestle as much as I wanted her to.
It's hard. That fourth one hard, bro. That fourth one real hard. It's not even right? Funny.
I think I would choose. I don't know who I would choose because of the ones. Mickey James stands out to me.
Yeah,
also,
Mickey James.
Also,
on the short list.
AJ stands out to me. AJ really didn't wrestle as much as I wanted to. It was her storylines that were really good.
Yeah.
Her longevity. It feels like she wasn't there that long. Like I mean, she was there, but it didn't feel like. I mean, she just doesn't have longevity.
Like
for
a whole
me.
bunch of major long storylines. So she was there for a while. But it was the fact that I don't think she got the credit she deserved. And you had like Michelle McCool and them. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
all of them
Right.
who could be in that last spot. Now I would say impact wise, not wrestling wise, but just impact wise as a duo, the Bella Twins. Because you remember that Give Divas a Chance for with they match got cut short.
Yeah.
Gave them a chance to get, and they were entrepreneurs. They left the way where they can get on reality show. They kind of just paved the way for women in the wrestling business and not just be wrestlers.
What?
Can't argue with that because
It would
they
be
was
very
out here
interesting to
making
see
money.
what it would be very interesting to see what WWE women's wrestling would be like right now without the Divas era and the Bella Twins basically fighting to keep it alive to a certain extent.
All
I
right,
mean,
let's call a spade a spade. Number one, I was thinking about Nikki Bella, but I cannot because number one, you can't tell me they didn't get that reality show if they weren't dating who they were dating. That's just if she wasn't dating
But
John Cena, they would
wait a minute,
not have gotten that reality show.
if you remember, she was dating John Cena towards the end of the Diva show that they had. I forgot the name of it. That they had with Natalia and all of them on it.
That
They
was
weren't they were
total
supposed to be
divas.
still in. She was at the time. She was before when she first got on the show. She was dating Dolph.
No. So the show started. She was dating John Cena. Then they were like, the season 3, Dolph was like, I want you back. I can give you what you want. You can have a husband.
Like way before, because you know around that time that she got with John and moved into his house. That was around the time that like they had like a little pilot. Then they went on to air. She was dating Dolph at first, and then that's how come the story came back around that he wanted her back all of a sudden. He could be the man she really needed, which come to find out, she probably should have went back. But
we're not. Let's keep going.
I mean, we're gonna keep it a buck. She left John. He done moved on. He finally settled down and got married.
Still ain't got no kids though.
She got married, and her husband recently got locked up for assault. So that didn't work out for her either. She should have just stayed with Dolph. But at the point, it's like they made money. They were a household name. They were on E Network. They were on they held their success to the point where they were on USA with a country show, game show recently, Nikki. That's how name brand they were. Their husbands their boyfriends at the time, now husband, famous in the wrestling field. But do you think that man is out there selling stuff? He out there selling clothes and wines and the rest of that stuff? No.
And with that, I'm not denying that. And I'll even give Nikki her due. When the Four Horsemen came back, she could have just buckled and said, okay, I'm just a diva. No, she actually got better. She actually got stronger and gave us decent matches with these people. It's the same thing with Charlotte, though. I can't give her the credit when I know that she was a golden girl because of her image. And she was, again, forced down our throats because of her image.
You love Roman Reigns, and he was forced down.
Let's be very clear. I like the tribal chief. You can throw them trash. You can throw them trash years of 2004. You can throw them 2014
to go through a 45-minute entrance for him to throw the ones in the air and everything.
Yes.
Listen. Come on now.
But no, you can throw them years, 2015 to 2020 you can throw them years in the trash. I do not acknowledge him as a tribal chief.
Even when he was a tribal chief, he was on Monday, Friday, every commercial, every video, everything. He was shoved down our throats for us to accept it. Oh, the tribal chief. Listen, the moment when he comes out and they go, we have merchandise for the tribal chief available on shop8wwe.com. Listen, they shoving it down in our throats.
Because we want it down our throats. Pause.
That's definitely pause for you. I don't know what to Listen,
Oh,
I just want to say that
Oh,
it
it
became
was
a
right there.
thing. And first of all, after the fifth time he defended his championship, and we were like, well, maybe he's gonna win or lose. Oh my God, there was interference. Oh my God, he kept his championship. When we went year after year after year, after a certain point, there was no denying it. And at a certain point, they were serving merchandise and everything down our throat. Look at him. Look at him. The tribal, our tribal. I got so tired of that stuff. I was like, man, take a break.
Listen,
it's interesting. There over the years, wrestlers, WWE, WWF, WCW, whatever you want, AEW, they have chosen people that they want to showcase. And you can call it shoving it down your throat. You can call it whatever you want. Some of these people are already over. It's a chicken and an egg situation because some of these people do get over, and that's when sometimes they get over because they're shoved down your throat, and they end up becoming your favorite wrestlers. I mean, there's no, the more you see people on TV, the more likely you are to like or dislike them because you have to make an opinion on it because they're on your
The
show that you're
prime
watching all the
example of
time.
shoving
So, I
down
mean,
the throat.
you can't avoid it. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's, a lot of these guys or women are, have those same issues. I mean,
The prime
you can
example
sit.
nowadays of shoving down our throat is two people I can point out from another company. Britt Baker, we don't want to see her no more. Keep
Uh,
shoving her down the throat. Actually, three. Britt Baker, we don't want to see her no more. You keep shoving us down the throat. Chris Jericho, you keep shoving us down the throat. We
I,
don't care. I don't care about the learning tree, growing
Chris
uh,
tree,
Jericho got
growing
pictures.
things.
I'm
I don't
I'm I'm
care.
I'm
Get out of
trolling.
my way. And I would say the borderline three would be for a while they were shoving Jack Perry down our throat. Then he disappeared, thank God, and he came back a better person. But
uh,
sometimes for the past few weeks they've been shoving Double J down our throat, and I'm like, man, I'm sick of you. Why are you
uh,
involved in stuff that ain't got nothing to do with you? Stay your ass in the back, okay?
Now,
That's all it is. That's when they want you, like every time you look around, they in the scene, in your face, on around, round her. It's like, what are you doing here?
now, Chris Jericho, I'm very convinced he has pictures. I'm like, you got pictures of Tony Khan. You can't tell me you don't have pictures of Tony Khan because if I'm Tony Khan, these past 2 years, you should have told him to sit his behind down. You should
That's
have
when you get
forced him to
somebody
sit his behind
control.
down.
Again, that's when you give somebody total control of their own self. When you make them the boss of them. Just how we got trapped in the Cody verse, and he thought, oh, I'm doing this the right way. Yes, he was good in working with other people, but he was not good with working with himself.
yeah. All right. Well, we've been going for 2 hours. I know it's late on your end. It's getting late on my end over
Yes,
here.
because I
So,
gotta go. I got to go, ladies and gentlemen. But
yep.
before
So
we
let's
leave,
do some.
ladies and gentlemen, you can find the cookout by the end of the week on all these platforms: Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts. You can find us on all social medias, ladies and gentlemen. And if you did not know, you want to scan the QR code, I got to pull the overlay off. You can scan the QR code that's about to come up now in a second. Right here, ladies and gentlemen. It is the horsey. You want to get a little lower pick to it? There you go. That's the horsey. Please support our channel on all those social medias you saw before. Ladies and gentlemen, you are here for the cookout, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Where we talk all things professional wrestling. Today we talked to Mr. McMahon and chose four of our favorite WWE wrestlers for our Mount Rushmore.
Of women.
Ladies and gentlemen, Friday night fights. You'll see Anika and Sammy. You might hear me because I gotta show Anika and Sammy after this how to run this platform. And after that, you will have on Saturday morning Winner Circle, ladies and gentlemen. On the Winner Circle, you have Sammy, Anika, and ALW go all things WWE Raw, NXT, and AEW Dynamite, ladies and gentlemen. Then on Saturday night is all right. Our AEW Collision watch along normally with CM and a tag team partner of her choosing. Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ladies and gentlemen, Sunday, 11 a.m. You get into the square circle. The fellows should be back soon. It's ALW and Sammy Joe battling out to see who will be the Enter the Square Circle champion, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Fast in a hurry. So anybody want to sum up what happened today?
I mean, I really watched Miss McMahon episode 3. Join us for episode 4 next Tuesday on the Cookout. And yeah, I had the best 4, and
No, you did
we'll
not.
call it the best.
Don't do that. Don't end that on that note.
No.
Don't do that.
Well,
All right.
we're about to hit this popsicle joint. Sammy and Nika, stay back for a second. Everybody else, you have a great night and a great week. We'll see you on Friday. Until then, peace.